Hi, I was just looking through my trunk and I found some pajamas that are just like some that I had when I was a little girl. Now, they wouldn't fit me now, would they? But they fit me back then. And do you know what? I'll tell you a story about one day when I was sick. Now, I wasn't really, really sick, but I was just sick enough that my mom made me stay home from school. And she made me stay in bed. And I started to get so bored because I'd read all my books and I'd colored all the pictures I felt like coloring. And I was just getting so bored. And so all of a sudden, over in the corner of my bedroom, I spied something on my little shelf. And you know, I hopped up off my bed and I went over there and I picked up my little scissors. And don't go away, because in just a minute, I'm going to tell you what I did with my scissors. To do, I have so many things planned for you. We'll laugh and we'll play, we'll sing and we'll pray. I'll tell you a story or two, and we'll be friends, you and I, yes, you and I, and Jesus. Happy you're here once again. It's so nice to have you as my friend. Well, do you know, for a little while, I sat on my bed and I cut some shapes out of paper and stuff, but even that got boring after a while. And next thing I knew, I'd put all the paper down and I was just sitting there and I was just fiddling with them, and before I knew it, I had cut a big hole in my pajamas. And it wasn't just a little hole, it was a big one. And as soon as I did it, I started to feel horrible, because I knew that you're not supposed to cut holes in your pajamas. And I was just sitting there just feeling so miserable, and right as I was feeling miserable, I heard footsteps. And I was trying to shove everything underneath me, and it was my mom. And she came in, and right away she saw me, and she looked at me, and she said, "Janice, what have you been doing?" And then she looked down, and she could see the scissors poking out from under my leg, and she could see the hole in my pajamas. And she said, "How did that happen?" And before I knew it, I told a lie. I said, "Mom, Brad flew home from school and did it." Well, that wasn't true. My brother couldn't fly, and I knew it, and then I felt even more horrible, worse than cutting the pajamas, because I knew I'd told a lie, and I knew I shouldn't lie, and I just felt so miserable. And she said, "Janice," she said, "that's not true. Please tell me the truth." And I said, "No, it's the truth, Mom. It wasn't me. I don't know anything about it." Well, I was feeling more and more miserable by the minute, and she said, "Janice," she said, "you need to pray and ask Jesus to help you tell the truth, because you're not feeling healthy when you tell lies." And I said, "I don't want to pray." And she said, "Well, I'll pray for you." And so she sat on the bed beside me and she started to pray. And at first I was feeling all mean and mad and everything, but then I started to feel kind of sad, and I started to feel like that I just didn't feel good, and I would feel so much better if I told the truth. And you know, I know that was Jesus speaking to my thinking place. And I just started to feel soft, and that I'd feel better if I told the truth. And so by the time she said amen, I looked and I said, "Mom," I said, "I'm sorry I told you a lie." I said, "Will you forgive me?" And I started to cry, and of course she forgave me, and she said it was okay. And then she said that she would still have to discipline me, because I had done a very naughty thing by cutting a hole in my pajamas, but she was more concerned about the fact that I didn't tell the truth. But you know, even though she disciplined me, I felt so good for telling the truth. It was just like a big weight had fallen off my shoulders. And you know, the Bible talks about that in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19. It says that truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. And that's so true. because when you tell the truth, you just feel so much better. Be fair, be honest, be true. Be fair, be honest, be true. If you're looking for ways to give the Lord praise, be fair, be honest, be true. Did you hear that? That's my bell basket. Let's go see what's in the basket today. Let's see. It's black, whatever it is. It's not too heavy. It's not too big either. I wonder what it could be. Why, it looks like just a box, doesn't it? Oh, I'll tell you, I know what it is. I've seen these in museums before. It's a very old camera. Maybe your grandparents had one like it. Very old. Oh, here's the hole you look through. Let me see. And here's the shutter switch. It works. I can tell. I can see that it let light in. You know, cameras look much different nowadays, don't they? But even these old cameras took good pictures. And the way that they work is they have a lens. And this is the lens out here at the front. And then when you press on the shutter switch, it lets light through. And when the light comes through into the lens, then that's what makes the picture happen. And so whatever you point your camera at, that's what you get a picture of. Would you like to see how the light comes through? I don't think you could see from that way. I think if I open it up, I should be able to show it to you. And then you should be able to get a good idea of how the... Can you see that? Do you see how the light comes through? When that light comes through, that's what makes it so that a picture gets taken. Pictures are neat, aren't they? Because whatever you point your camera at, that means that you get a picture of that. You know, my husband has a modern camera, and it's much fancier. And I like sometimes trying to take pictures of it. I'm not real good at using those kind of cameras. But you know, pictures are fun because they show whatever is there. And they tell an honest description of what's there. And that's how God wants us to be in our lives, is to be picture perfect, always telling the truth. And that makes us happy, and it makes us to be a beautiful picture.
Hey kids, if you love all the fun things you get to do with Janice and her friends, you'll flip over this. It's Janice's activity book. Loaded with fun, this book teaches scripture through mazes, puzzles, dot-to-dot games, coloring, and more. And the best part is, it's free! Let's take a look inside. The scripture on this page says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Now, let's circle the pictures that are the same. That's right, you've got the idea. There are many more fun-filled activities in this book just waiting for you. By the way, did I mention it's free? To get your very own copy, have your mom or dad write to Janice's Attic Activity Book, care of 3ABN, P.O. Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois 62896, or call 1-800-752-3226. Don't wait, order yours today.
Well, hi. I'm glad you found me over here in my jungle forest. I just love being outdoors in nature, don't you? There's so many pretty things to see, to say nothing of all the things there are to smell. It's so nice. You know, God likes it when we spend time out in nature because He has so many lessons for us to learn out here. He's made so many wonderful things for us to look at and to experience, and He wants us to look carefully to see what we can learn. I'd like to tell you a little bit about rabbits right now. Do you like rabbits? I do. They're so soft, and they're so pretty with their big ears and their eyes. You know, there's something about rabbits that you might not know because it's something you can't see too well. What it is rabbits have two very, very sharp front teeth. You've seen those. But in behind those two front teeth that you can see, there's two other smaller ones, and they're kind of like a pair of scissors because they're smaller, and they're back in there, and they're just very, very sharp. And so when the rabbit gets hungry and wants to eat something for lunch, he can come over to where there's a little bush with branches and stuff, and those sharp front teeth just help him snip off any kind of a twig or anything, just as easy as anything, and then just gobble it up. And you see, if he didn't have that extra pair of teeth behind the big front teeth, he wouldn't be able to snip off twigs and branches so easily. So God has provided a way to help the rabbits get their food easier. Another thing God has taught rabbits to do is He's given the mothers a wonderful way of taking care of their babies. You know, they know how to build just the perfect little nest to put their babies in. First of all, they find a little place in the ground where it's a little bit hollow, and then they put nice, soft bits of grasses and dried leaves and stuff in the bottom of it. And then do you know what else they do? They pull out fur from inside from their tummy. They pull out little bits of fur and also put those little bits of fur down into the nest. And that makes the nest just cozy, warm, and it makes it soft for the babies too. And then they leave their babies in the nest. Now you might think, well, why doesn't the mummy stay with the babies? Well, the mother has a good reason, because she knows that enemy animals can smell her body. And she knows that if she stays in the nest with the babies, they'd smell her body, and then those enemy animals would come and eat their babies up. And that wouldn't be good, would it? So she stays off to the side, but she's always watching. And then when it's time to come feed her babies or something, she zigzags over this way, hops this way, and then she hops back over this way, and right down through the branch. And then she hops over here, and then she hops back over this way, and then she hops down this way a bit, and then she looks around, and then quick jumps into the nest. And do you know, she takes good care of her babies, and then when she's all done caring for them, she gets grasses and leaves and covers them up, and then says bye-bye to her babies, and then she hops out, and then goes this way, and then over this way, and then over this way, and then just hides in a little cozy place where she can keep a good track of her babies. Isn't that neat how God has taught the rabbits and given the rabbits just the right things that they need in order to live and survive? You know what? There's a rabbit in my kitchen that I think you'd like to meet. Meet me over in my kitchen and I'll introduce you to him, okay? See you there. I told you we'd find a rabbit in my kitchen. I call him Honest Harvey, and he is so handsome, isn't he? Would you like me to teach you how to make your own? I will. The first thing that you want to start with are good, healthy ingredients. Now I have 2 slices of bread here. Which one do you think is the healthy one? The whole wheat one or the white one? You're right. The whole wheat one is better for you because it's full of vitamins and minerals and fiber, things that your body machine needs. And you need a pair of scissors, and you cut your bread into a circle. So the first thing you need to make Honest Harvey is 2 slices of nice whole wheat bread, and then you cut a smaller circle and you cut a larger circle. And when you have the smaller circle cut, you cut it in half, and those are his ears. And then to make his face, you use the larger circle. And I'll turn it this way so you can see it real well. And you take peanut butter and you spread peanut butter on his face. Now, peanut butter is full of protein, and you're spreading the peanut butter on his face so that the other parts of his face, like his eyes and his nose and the hair on his face, will all stick nice to his face. And so this Honest Harvey is going to be made of good ingredients that are good for you to make your body machine run smoothly. So after you've put the peanut butter on, then you tuck the ears underneath the top of his head like so. Isn't he starting to look handsome? And then you take banana. And you need 2 slices of banana. Carefully cut your banana. And these are his nice fat cheeks. And then you take coconut and you sprinkle the coconut anywhere where you want Honest Harvey to have hair. On his ears and up around above his cheeks and all underneath, just anywhere where you want him to have hair. And if you get a bit on the plate, that's okay, because the coconut will be fun to eat later on. And then for his eyes, You use 2 nice, fat, juicy raisins and just put a little teeny bit of peanut butter on them and then pop them onto his face. Oh, he's starting to look handsome, isn't he? Now, raisins have lots of iron in them, and iron is good for your body. And remember, we talked about rabbits having 2 sets of teeth, didn't we? We talked about the little set that's underneath his big front teeth. So for his little tiny set, we're going to use carrot. And so you slice your carrot, and you just want to make a little tiny, tiny slice. And so you just don't need to cut a very big piece at all. And you just take that little piece that you've cut, and then you put that right there. And these are those little sharp teeth that God has given the rabbit behind his big front teeth so that he can chew off all the twigs and branches so easily. And then we'll use almonds for his big top front teeth that you see so well. And so the carrots are his teeth that are in behind, and they're hidden, just like his teeth are hidden, but you'll know they're there, won't you? And let's see, is he starting to look like Honest Harvey? What do you think he needs? You're right, he needs whiskers. Let's use good celery for whiskers. Celery is like a toothbrush. It's so good for you. If you end your meal by eating celery, you'll be just like brushing your teeth. Well, he's starting to look real handsome, isn't he? Now, you know Honest Harvey is going to be fun for you to eat because he has good, healthy ingredients in him. He's made of whole wheat bread that's good for you, and he's got bananas on him, and bananas are full of potassium, and that's good for you. And he's got nice almonds for his teeth. They have protein, and the peanut butter has protein, and raisins for his eyes. Do you remember what raisins have in them? You're right, iron. Good. And iron is good because it helps your blood cells work well. So Honest Harvey is going to be a treat that tastes good and that looks good. And do you know what else is fun about Honest Harvey? When you make him for someone, and when you serve him, you be sure and tell them about his teeth. In fact, you could even lift off the top tooth and show the person the little sharp teeth underneath. And you tell them how God has given those 2 sets of teeth to rabbits special so that they can bite off twigs and branches. So you remember that and have fun eating Honest Harvey.
Oops. Oh, that's better.
Did you know that one of the best ways to become a good friend of Jesus is by spending personal time with him every day? Well, adults do that by praying and by reading their Bibles. But if you can't read, it's kind of hard, isn't it? Or maybe you just like listening to tapes. Well, here's a fun way to have your very own devotions every morning when you get up. Janice has made these morning time devotions for her kids and for you, complete with songs, prayers, and stories. For more information, have your parents write to Morning Time Ministries, Box 208A, Kitwanga, that's Kitwanga, British Columbia, V0J2A0, or call 1-800-263-7671. Here's the number again, 1-800-263-7671.
Today's story was one of my favorite stories when I was a little girl. I think you'll like it too. Are you ready to listen? Henry lived on a big farm with his family. There were always lots of chores to do, but his favorite job was taking the corn to the grist mill to get ground into flour. On this particular morning, he loaded the sack of corn and the lunch onto his horse very early, even before the sun was up. And then he was on his way. When he arrived at the mill, he saw that there were lots of farmers ahead of him, and soon he found that the lineup was so long that he would have to sleep overnight in Mr. Saunders' big barn. He was glad his mom had sent an extra big basket of food. That night in the big barn, he met a new boy just about his age named Charlie Allen. He was friendly, and Henry enjoyed visiting him. When bedtime came, Henry was busy rolling out his blanket and getting settled when suddenly he heard a rude fellow exclaim in a loud voice, "Heyday, we've got a preacher here." Henry looked, and there was Charlie kneeling by the oat bin praying. Henry saw that even though the farmers laughed, many of them must have been touched by Charlie's courage to say his prayers, because many of them had tears in their eyes. Henry prayed at home, but he'd always been too shy to pray in public. As he laid awake that night in the old barn, thinking of Charlie Allen's courage and what an effect it had upon himself and also on the other men, he resolved that he would always try to do right. And right then he prayed a little prayer that God would help him. Little did he know that soon he would be tested. The next morning dawned bright and clear, and finally, after lunch, Henry's corn was ground into flour and he was ready to start riding home. When he arrived at the turnoff at Squire Albright's gate, he saw that the Squire Albright was waiting for him. And right away he knew that something was wrong. This man was the richest man in the neighborhood, and Henry had always been in great awe of him. His heart began to beat very fast, and as soon as Henry got close enough, the squire said, "Did you go through this gate yesterday?" Henry could easily have denied it, as it was before daylight when he went through, and he quite often went the other way. But the picture of Charlie Allen kneeling in the barn came to his mind like a flash, and before he had time to listen to the tempter, he replied, "Yes, sir, I did." "Are you sure that you shut and locked the gate?" he asked. Henry remembered distinctly that he had carelessly ridden away, leaving the gate open, and he started to stutter, I... But then he remembered his resolve to always do right. "I left it open," he said abruptly. "Well, you let in the cattle, and they've destroyed all my early potatoes. A terrible piece of business. I'm very sorry. Talking won't help matters now, but remember, boy, remember that sorrow doesn't make potatoes." Henry felt very bad, and he really was sorry that the old gentleman had lost his potatoes. He expected to be severely reproved at home. But when he arrived home, no one said anything, and after several days passed, he began to think that his parents didn't even know about his mistake, and he relaxed. But alas for his hopes, because one rainy afternoon, Henry saw Squire Albright coming down his lane. He raced off to the barn, ashamed to face him, and he was afraid to meet his father, too. Then he saw his father and Squire Albright sitting on the porch and talking for a long time. At last, Henry became so curious that he snuck into the house through the back door and crept quietly up the stairs to a bedroom to see if he could hear what they were saying. He leaned his head out the window just as far as possible without being seen, and then he heard his father say, "Well, I think we could spare Henry, but Henry doesn't even know anything about your business." At that, the squire replied, "There's one thing he does know. He knows how to tell the truth. And what I need is a boy that I can trust, no matter what." And then the squire told the story about Henry leaving the gate open, the potato crop getting spoiled, and Henry telling the truth about his mistake. And he ended up by saying that he wanted an honest boy to work in his store. After the squire had gone, Henry's father called him and told him that the squire was going to start a store in the village and that he would like Henry to work for him. Of course, Henry was very excited about that. You know, later on, people always said that Henry got his start in life when he entered the Albright store. But Henry always told people that it was when he decided to always do what was right. And even when Henry was a very old man, he never ever tired of telling boys and girls how important it is to be honest and to always do what is right. You know, I think it's almost time for me to go now. I'm glad you were with me today, And I'm really glad we could learn all the things we've learned about telling the truth. Let's practice them, okay? And I'll see you again, okay? Bye-bye.